at that. They took away the only night game at Razorback Stadium this year. It's no longer a night game. The Missouri game has been moved to 2:30 in 2 Saturdays. So 2:30 Saturday at Texas, 2:30 for the Battle Line rivalry against Missouri, when the 2025 football season will mercifully come to a conclusion for the Arkansas Razorbacks. We have Connor O'Gara with us. He is the national senior columnist at Saturday Down South. And I didn't realize until I looked at your Twitter, too, here, Connor, that the Iron Bowl will be the only night game that year. Arkansas-Mizzou, I don't know if that necessarily needed to be under the lights.
No, it probably didn't. And, the fact that we're having the rivalry week game spread out over basically the course of 2 days in the SEC, I look forward to it. I love the fact that we basically get a full day of football again on Friday. I think Black Friday is the most underrated day on the college football calendar. And I like that we're only going to have one of these night games to close out. The Big Ten's been doing this for a while, and nobody really talks about it because it's just really, really cold this time of year, and you don't want to have night games in the Midwest. But I think it's actually a smart move, and for a game that all of a sudden has a lot of implications with Alabama suffering that second loss, I think it's going to be must-see TV. So I'm okay with that having kind of a standalone spotlight. And I realize that for Arkansas fans who were hoping for maybe just one home night game this year, that is a bit of a bummer.
Speaking of that Oklahoma-Alabama game, Connor, how did that one unfold? Were you surprised that Oklahoma is 2-0 since being in the SEC against Alabama? Were you surprised that Oklahoma was able to go into Tuscaloosa and come out with a dub?
Especially surprised. And considering that R. Mason Thomas, who is Oklahoma's best defensive player, wasn't even out there for this one, it made it that much more impressive for Brent Venables. I mean, no SEC team had won in Tuscaloosa since 2019, Joe Burrow. I mean, that's no small feat. Kalen DeBoer hadn't lost a home game as a head coach since he was at Fresno State in 2021. To do that against this Alabama team, which is flawed, is just no small feat. And I think Oklahoma has really shown a lot of people that they absolutely belong in the SEC in year two after just a disastrous offensive showing in year one. And they have enough offense, at least to be a team that can get into the college football playoff. And all of a sudden now, after winning at Neyland and after winning at Bryant-Denny, Oklahoma is sitting really, really pretty with a defense that is going to be brutal to play against for 60 minutes and a quarterback who is looking healthier than ever in John Mateer. So, yeah, I think that Oklahoma is especially dangerous right now, and going into Tuscaloosa and winning the way that they did is a sign that they're very much for real.
Well, they won that game with 3 takeaways and converting that into points. But it's like, look at the box score of the game, Connor, and you think, well, this mirrors a lot of the Arkansas games throughout this season. Outgain an opponent, the opponent only had a one drive of over 50 yards for a score in Oklahoma. But turnovers proved to be a team's undoing when it comes to this sport. And nobody knows that any better right now than the Arkansas Razorbacks.
It's, I'm preaching to the choir. I don't have to tell Arkansas fans how brutal it is to watch these fourth quarter turnovers, or just to watch what it looks like when you need that big third down conversion to have that big exhale moment, and you just can't get it, and you have to watch your quarterback inevitably just go down with a crushing sack or something like that. I mean, Alabama fans, I think it kind of embracing for it just because their run game struggles are very well documented, and Ty Simpson's been put in some tough spots, and he's been really good in a lot of those tough spots, but they've been playing with fire a little bit. But, yeah, if you're unable to avoid those costly turnovers late in SEC games with the margin for error being so slim, I mean, that's just – it's going to come back to bite you.
Hey, Connor, before I ask you about Texas and Georgia, is USC quietly, are they under the radar? Are they going to make this playoff 12? What's your things out west? Because we don't get to see them play much, but all they've been doing is they have to beat Oregon this next week. They could make it. What do you think? You think they can beat Oregon?
I don't think they beat Oregon, but if they do, the possibility of Oklahoma hosting a Lincoln Riley-led USC team is very much on the table for the first round of the college football playoff, and I'd be so here for that. I mean, that is not that crazy. Like, if they are able to go into Eugene, which, again, up until a certain, program in Bloomington, Indiana went in there and ended the nation's longest home winning streak, like, up until then, they had all of the momentum in the world playing in Eugene. if USC goes in there and wins that game, I think that'll be the sign that, wow, okay, maybe Lincoln Riley does have a team that he actually believes in. Jaden Mayava is a quarterback that I think has kind of done exactly what's been asked of him, and Mekhi Lemon has been a stud for them in the passing game. So this is a USC team that if they get blown out at Oregon, we're just going to go back to saying exactly what we've been saying, which is, oh, they're too soft. But winning at Iowa the way that they did, man, like that is no small feat. Like there are teams that are unable to handle the physicality of Iowa, and USC has always been kind of the poster child for that. So the fact that they've won 3 in a row and have put themselves in this position, I think is a testament to the fact that Lincoln Riley still knows what he's doing. He just might not be in that tier 1 in college football.
And then I want to get your thoughts on Texas and Georgia. Texas out, and then Georgia. A lot of talk going into this week was Alabama. Everybody's like, Alabama's better than Georgia. I don't know. Would you have Georgia? How do you rate the SEC with Georgia and Bama right there? And is Texas, they're on the outside looking in?
Yeah, I mean, Texas would need chaos, and they'd probably need to beat an 11-0 Texas A&M team and decisively in the regular season finale in order to get into the college football playoff again. No 9-3 at-large team made the field last year, and that's the best Texas can do at this point. So, yeah, I mean, I think that if you're looking at Georgia and Alabama side by side or head to head, you're saying, well, give me Alabama because, you know, that's Kirby Smart's boogeyman. But if you're just looking at the resumes objectively, I think Georgia's the scariest team in the country. I think what they've been able to do to get to this point, which is win all of these games by seizing momentum in the second half, and then now be at a place where they look like they're really rounding into form in November, to me it just speaks to what this team is trying to build towards. They're trying to be the team that's peaking at the exact right time. Gunnar Stockton looks like one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football, maybe even a Heisman Trophy finalist. And this is a defense that even without C.J. Allen, like he gets hurt, and this is the whole second half of that game with a knee injury. They don't skip a beat, and they just do everything to frustrate Texas. So, yeah, I do think that Georgia right now is the scariest team to play, not just in the SEC, but in all of college football.
Where are you on coaching at Arkansas? We had a caller, about 20 minutes ago, make a case for Bobby Petrino. I've made plenty of cases to point out that I don't think that's the direction to go in, and it just seems to be Franklin isn't probably coming to Arkansas. It looks like either Virginia Tech or one of the other ACC programs, which I think fits for him. So when you're looking at Arkansas now, and you just try to be realistic about this, it's going to be a younger coach that's coming up from a Group of 5 program, and maybe one of those American Conference coaches. That's sort of where I'm coalescing around now.
I think Alex Golesh, to me, that's been my guy from the jump. I think he still makes a lot of sense. I really do. I think Ryan Silverfield makes a lot of sense as well. I think if I'm Arkansas, I would be perfectly fine getting one of those two guys and realizing that this is a market that has a whole lot of big-time jobs available, and you might not necessarily make the splashiest hire, but that's okay. Make the right hire. Make the guy that's going to fit what you need right now. And there are a lot of coaches, I think, that could take on a rebuild, could understand that you have finances that are there in ways that a lot of programs right now are just searching to try and find that. And maybe there are some bigger names that kind of don't look at that job twice. Maybe John Summerall is a guy that doesn't look at the Arkansas job in the same way that he looks at some of these other vacancies, or even at his alma mater, Kentucky, which hasn't even come open yet. But obviously, if it does, he'll be connected to it. So I do think that Arkansas is still going to end up with a really nice candidate here. And maybe that's an unpopular opinion at this point. I know there are a lot of people that wanted to see Bobby Petrino kind of flip the script in these close games. That has not happened, needless to say. And so I do think that there are still going to be a lot of viable candidates that are going to want this job. I still think Alex Golesh makes a lot of sense. Maybe people will disagree on that, but not all is lost if the big names in this cycle turn this job down.
Well, why is Lane Kiffin the way that he is? And I think he's a great football coach. But there's an article that comes out in Yahoo in which he's trying to say how much I love it at Ole Miss, and maybe this is where I'm going to finish my career. And then after the game, commenting on, did you see the crowd against Citadel? It wasn't the same as this last one. Or, the way that Dellinger wrote this made me seem like I was close to death and everything. And, who knows? If it's wild because Franklin's situation with Virginia Tech is totally different because he's not coaching a team right now. There's no fan base that he's trolling except maybe Tech, just quietly. The situation with Kiffin and Ole Miss and whether he's going to go to Florida or LSU, it's incredible, especially for a team that's playing so well.
Yeah, it's very unique. It's extremely unique. I mean, the home fans are chanting for him at the end of that game, and then meanwhile, there's Florida fans who went to that game in Oxford trying to basically cheer for Lane, like with Lane Kiffin T-shirts, like Lane Kiffin Florida shirts. Like I went to the Swamp a few weeks ago for a game of Texas and Florida fans had "Welcome to Lanesville" signs. Like Florida's all in for Lane Kiffin, and Lane, I think, if I'm guessing right now, like in his heart of hearts, he truly doesn't know where he's going to be next year. I still think he ends up staying at Ole Miss, but there's definitely an element to this where Florida is so all in, might even wait deep into December to have a formal agreement with him. But if he does go anywhere, I think it's only Florida. And I do think that those other jobs don't make as much sense for him right now with where he is in his career. And I do think that if those numbers come out, they will be historically large. But even though he's not making this decision for money, Lane is appreciating all of this. He likes to be wanted because Lord knows 12 years ago, he was not exactly Mr. Wanted in the sport of college football. He was persona non grata at big-time jobs. So, yeah, he's soaking all of this in. I really don't think he knows what he wants to do, though, and that's the most fascinating piece of all this.
You don't always win your first bet. That's why MyBookie has you covered. Use our code HOGS, H-O-G-S, and your first bet up to $500 is fully covered. If your pick doesn't hit, you get it right back with our Bet Back bonus. Go to MyBookie.ag and use the code HOGS to claim your Bet Back bonus. MyBookie's where bettors win together because bragging's good, but cashing in is better. And your first bet is fully covered. Use our code HOGS.
Must opt in during the bet to use the Bet Back bonus.